Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News. This week saw the return to the USB stick for the Talking News service and indeed the launch of the Site for Wight Alexa skill. We are so pleased with the positive feedback we have received from individual members and indeed how many people have come forward to register for an Alexa device on our long-term loan scheme. Remember, if you wish to enable the skill, simply awaken your device and say, "Enable the Site for Wight skill." The units are all being made ready to allow for a COVID-secure, straightforward installation next week to the members who've requested them. Remember, we also have Wi-Fi dongles available if you do not have an internet connection. We have also introduced our Site for Wight telephone service, upon which you can listen to all of the same information as the Alexa skill, including the Talking News, newsletter and Site for Wight information and notices. The phone number is 01983 475547. Please remember, if you are on a call package, there is usually a restriction of 59 consecutive minutes, so the service will cut off at 59 minutes unless you positively tell it to stay active. This week, starting on the 1st of June, is National Volunteers Week. We would usually have held our annual volunteers party to celebrate each and every person who gives up their time to help us here at Site for Wight, but due to the current restrictions, this isn't possible. We are, however, having a stand in St Thomas's Square on Wednesday this week, so please do not hesitate to pop along and say hello. Plans are taking shape for our reopening for Wednesday and Thursday groups from the 1st of July, subject of course to the government announcements. Hopefully these will be made around the 14th of June and will confirm the removing of restrictions, but of course we must wait and see. If you have any requests or suggestions regarding the Talking News, or you feel we can help in any way, please never hesitate to contact us on Isle of Wight 5 22205. We look forward to seeing you at our stall on St James's Square on Wednesday this week between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Thank you. Stay safe.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. Alliance Group and a new leader take control of Isle of Wight Council. A tightly contested fight to lead the Isle of Wight Council has ended up with a new leader of the authority and a new ruling party. After the island went to vote earlier this month, it was down to a meeting of the council yesterday, Thursday, to decide who would sit in the hot seat for the next 4 years. Former council and Conservative group leader Dave Stewart lost his seat in the election to the new councillor Claire Christensen of the Green Party by 240 votes. In the first meeting of the newly formed Isle of Wight Council, Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox took the sought-after position by 20 to 18. Before the meeting, it was uncertain who would challenge Councillor Steve Hastings, the new Conservative leader, for the role of council leader, but when it came down to the votes, the Conservatives fell short on getting their party leader into the coveted position. Throwing his support behind Councillor P.C. Wilcox, Councillor Ian Stevens said she held the values of the Isle of Wight Council, none politically, but has now pulled together a cohesive cross-party group that will take the authority to another level. Supporting Councillor Hastings, Councillor Claire Mosdell said he had already helped make a difference to the island through his role in the Cabinet and wanted to ensure there was openness and transparency across the council chamber. Addressing Lib Dem and Green councillors, Councillor Modell said there were no shame in abstaining, remembering what their real political beliefs are, instead of being swallowed up in a rainbow. Responding to Councillor Mosdell's words, Lib Dem's councillor Andrew Garrett said, "Talk of promises after the last 4 years of a Conservative administration were hollow words." Newly re-elected Councillor Darrell Pitcher said he was not going to speak, but Councillor Mosdell's words did something to him and he urged councillors not to abstain. He said abstaining is not an option. It is like trying to be neutral between a fire engine and a fire. If you cannot make a decision on who the leader of the council should be, you should not be sitting here because you will not be able to make any decisions on anything. The public voted for change. The Conservatives need to understand this, and a period of opposition should be able to focus their minds. In her first address as leader, Councillor P.C. Wilcox said COVID-19 recovery, car parking charges and issues with planning and housing are priorities. She said, "From tonight, the Isle of Wight has a new political culture, one of the political inclusion rather than competition, working with council staff and other public bodies as a team." Councillor PC Wilcox said it will be put the island on a road to an ecological, sustainable future and a better quality of life.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo. 2-year prison sentence for St Helens PTA chair who stole thousands from school. 34-year-old William Egan has been given a 2-year prison sentence after stealing in excess of £8,000 from St Helens Primary School's Parent-Teacher Association, PTA. Disgraced Egan, now of Lincoln, admitted fraud by abuse of position and was sentenced to jail time at the Isle of Wight Crown Court today, Wednesday. The situation began some 3 years ago, in May 2018, when funds were needed to make improvements to the village primary school. Unemployed Egan almost immediately resigned from his position as chair, governor and treasurer of the PTA, leaving remaining governors to try and access the much-needed funds. It soon transpired that William and his wife had full control over the HSBC bank account and that a significant amount of money was unaccounted for. 3 months later, and police moved in to arrest Egan, who said in interview that he was reimbursing himself for work carried out at the school. No evidence of this was ever provided. Daniel Sawyer, prosecuting, told the court how Egan used the money to fund his lifestyle, including days out and shopping. William Egan is said to have used several aliases and has previously been convicted of fraud. He lied to the school which his child attended to gain his position on the PTA. Ellie Sheehan, defending, blamed Egan's mental health for the situation and explained how family illness led to an emotional time for him. She said her client is ashamed of his behaviour and is now on medication, resulting in him no longer being the man he was before. However, it was said in court that suggestions of a mental breakdown and domestic violence were seemingly lies, which tied in with Egan's history of lying. Judge Tim Mousley, QC, sentenced William Egan to 24 months in prison and ordered him to pay just £1,000 in compensation.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Asda lose High Court case against Council over retail park development. Asda has lost a High Court case brought against the Isle of Wight Council over the granting of planning permission for a new retail park in Newport. But the supermarket giant denies it is throwing its toys out of the pram over plans to build an oldie next door. The supermarket brought about a judicial review over the council's decision to grant planning permission for a new retail park at St George's Way in Newport to include the building of a brand new Aldi supermarket alongside a McDonald's drive-through, a Costa drive-through and other retail units. It was claimed by Asda that the council had made a legal error and failed to undertake an environmental impact assessment, that's an EIA, screening opinion prior to the granting of planning permission. The case was heard at the High Court last Wednesday, the 19th of May, during which the council admitted it did not adopt a screening opinion in accordance with EIA regulation prior to granting planning. Instead, they adopted a screening opinion ex post facto, along with a witness statement from the case officer. The Honourable Mrs Justice Tipples dismissed the claim on all grounds and awarded the council a significant proportion of their costs. Asda denies that they pursued legal action because of a rival supermarket opening next door. They say that the basis of the challenge was to ensure that the council process is followed by all in the same way that they had to when making their planning applications. The legal action has led to a delay in getting the project off the ground and the relocation of Newport Football Club. Paul Airy, planning agent for the retail park applicant, South Coast Leisure, has said, "Naturally, we welcome this ruling. The proceedings brought by ASDA have caused an unnecessary delay to a project that will bring not only additional retail choice and an economic boost to Newport, but is also crucial to Newport Football Club's relocation to a new community sporting venue." An Isle of Wight council spokesperson has told Island Echo, "The council successfully defended a judicial review of its decision to grant planning permission for the development of a retail park at the former St George's Football Club site in Newport. The High Court proceedings were brought by ASDA, which claimed the council had made an error in law when arriving at its decision to grant permission. While ASDA was denied leave to appeal the decision by the judge, they will still have recourse to appeal directly if they choose to do so." A spokesperson for ASDA said, "It has been our view throughout that the correct application process was not followed in accordance with EIA regulations, and we are disappointed that, despite the council admitting this error, this decision has gone against us, and we will now consider our next steps." One of the possible outcomes of this decision is that in the future applicants can refer to this case as being an example of why they may not have to follow the current legal process and adopt a screening opinion prior to the grant of permission.
Hopes for 20-mile-per-hour speed limit through Isle of Wight village gains momentum. From Isle of Wight Radio, Elaine. A petition for a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit through the centre of a West Wight village is gaining momentum, with locals arguing now is the right time to do it. The petition to reduce the speed limit through the centre of the village of Bryston from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour was launched at the start of April by Graham Robinson. He lives locally and was thinking about other issues relating to new development, Blanchards, off the main road. Now around 250 people have signed it. Graham has been speaking exclusively to Isle of Wight Radio. He said, "We launched it, the petition, because we have become very much aware of the general problem in the village. I am sure it is a problem in any village these days, not suitable for the amount of traffic and the speed, etc. But I think this village in particular, with the main road which curves around, there isn't good visibility in certain places. It passes by a bus stop where kids get on and off and a general lack of pavements, which I think people find difficult. In addition to our previous concerns, there's a pinch point that's going to be possibly installed relative to the new development, which we think will cause other issues, in particular in terms of traffic coming in from the east. They will come through the village, see the pinch point and think we can get there before traffic coming the other way and possibly speed up further. And it is that bit of the road that has no pavements." Among those supporting the new speed limit are Claire Corsham and her husband Trev, who took on Bryston newsagents in the middle of the pandemic on April the 1st last year. But thanks to the overwhelming support from locals, they were able to get through an incredibly challenging time. Working with Adrian's bike shop in Freshwater, the popular newsagents now has an e-bike hire, as well as the ability to serve alcohol until 9 o'clock. Claire said for the village in general, it would be great if traffic could be slowed down. Claire told Isle of Wight Radio, "From a customer perspective, ultimately it is safety. There is parking in the village, but sometimes it tends to obstruct the walkway, so people have to walk out in the middle of the road. Large vehicles, especially those that don't know the area, can drive a little bit fast, and because we have moved the counter to the door, it is much more noticeable. Councillor Hastings, who represents Bryston, Calbourne and Shalfleet, told Isle of Wight Radio he has signed the petition. He said, "Bryston is one of the largest villages on the island and benefits from 2 shops, cafes, a school and pub, all in the centre, which means a lot of traffic and parked vehicles often delivering goods. This often gives poor visibility down the road with no assisted crossing point for children and the elderly, and with a major development coming soon at Blanchard's Field, there will be even more requirements for crossing the road as the facilities are all on the opposite side. So traffic calming is essential, and I support this call for 20 miles per hour through our village before there is a bad accident." Sources close to Isle of Wight Radio say Bryston Parish councillors have been individually supportive of the new limit when it was discussed at a meeting last week. Nick Stewart, Bryston Parish councillor and West Wight campaigner, told Isle of Wight Radio, "I fully support a 20 mile per hour limit in the local villages, and as a local councillor will encourage Bryston Parish Council and others to get behind this campaign. Most drivers are already considerate of pedestrians, cyclists and horses, and a 20 mile per hour limit will encourage others to follow their example." A spokesman for Island Roads told Isle of Wight Radio, "We are currently collecting traffic data as part of an island-wide speed limit review. Once the data has been collected, a report with recommendations will be prepared for the Isle of Wight Council in the autumn for a decision on a strategic vision for the future. You can sign the petition in the newsagents and the village shop or emailing graham@bryston20@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from the Island Echo. Sunshine and warmth on the way for the bank holiday weekend. Forecasters are predicting a warm and sunny bank holiday weekend with the mercury expected to reach the mid-20s by next week, marking an end to the unseasonably wet and windy weather experienced over the past few weeks. A mix of the good weather, half-term and uncertainty over the COVID pandemic will no doubt see tourists flock to the Isle of Wight over the next week, and now that restrictions have been lifted on overnight stays. The sunshine is expected to draw out the locals too, after several weeks of rain more commonly experienced in March and April. Island Echo is told that the ferries are incredibly busy with no available sailings from Portsmouth on Friday. The turn in the weather starts today with bright sunshine expected across Wednesday and Thursday. Friday will be fairly cloudy with temperatures sitting around the 15 or 16 mark, but it will feel pleasant in the light winds. According to the local weather forecasters Isle of Wight Met Service, by Saturday we can expect to see 18 to 20 degrees away from the windward coast with an increasing amount of sunshine with light to variable winds. Things only get better as we move into Sunday with long spells of sunshine and ward temperatures of 20 to 22 degrees. An increasing breeze will make it feel cooler in eastern and southern parts of the island at times though. Bank holiday Monday will see a fresh, cool easterly breeze at times, but it will still be pleasantly warm, especially in more central and western parts of the island. Temperatures are expected to hover around the low 20s, maybe a touch below on windward coasts. By the middle of next week, there are hints that things could heat up even more, with 24 or 25 degrees achieved, although there are also some hints of thundery showers.
The Beast Must Die. Isle of Wight film series begins streaming this week. From On the Wight, Chris. The 5-part series that was filmed on the Isle of Wight last year will begin streaming on BritBox later this week. The first 2 episodes will be released on the 27th of May to be streamed via BritBox. The following 3 episodes will be released weekly on Thursdays. There are 5 episodes in total. The 5-part thriller series, written by Gaby Chiappi, stars Jared Harris, The Crown, Cush Jumbo, The Good Wife, Billy Howell, Witness for the Protection, and Nathaniel Parker, Vanity Fair. The revenge thriller tells the story of a mother who sets out to avenge her young son's death, while a detective tries to unpick the web of tragedy and steer a course to justice. Many islanders were involved with the production, taking roles as extras as well as supporting roles behind the camera.
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo. How venues keep the community united. Being part of a community and understanding the benefits of it helps people feel like they belong to something bigger than themselves. From halls and venues to social media groups and platforms, a community can be anything as long as it is shared by people with common interests. The feeling of togetherness is enriched by mutual support and commitment to a cause everyone believes in. Many factors contribute to a healthy community, with one of them being the existence of spaces where people can gather to share a hobby or a subject they are passionate about and connect with like-minded people. In the Isle of Wight, just like in many other places, there are plenty of venues that have kept people united throughout the years. Here are two of the most relevant examples for our community. Bingo halls. A staple in British pop culture, bingo halls have long been recognised as a cultural phenomenon, particularly amongst older generations, but not exclusively. Since now you can play online bingo on your mobile, the game has grabbed the attention of everyone. With their high-quality graphics and modern themes, these platforms gave the industry a massive boost, helping people continue their hobby from home while still engaging through the chat room with others. Bingo became so popular at one point that there were over 2,000 bingo halls spread around the UK. The Isle of Wight was not far behind this trend either, and many local buildings had become bingo halls. Moreover, one of the biggest attractions on the island is a bingo hall that attracts players from everywhere on a weekly basis. The place is part of the community, and residents see it as a hub where they can meet and socialise. Independent music venues. Independent music venues are the starting point of many great musicians and bands, and people are working hard at preserving them. Before fame and success, all local artists have been part of a city or a town's local music scene, receiving support from the locals in their journey. These venues are a great way to connect with new people and to engage with the community you live in. Considering the island was once home to one of the biggest music festivals, the Isle of Wight Festival, it is fair to say that the community is dedicated to supporting its independent venues. From old theatre halls to small churches and refurbished post offices, the vibrant live music scene knows no limits when it comes to delivering a great gig. And with passionate residents that want to keep the quirky side of the community alive, independent venues will continue to receive support. Anyone can contribute to the process of creating a strong community through various ways, and one of them is by thinking locally. No matter how big or small, the place we live in can provide us with opportunities for professional and emotional growth. People that work together towards the same goal can help and influence each other, as well as give a sense of security, which is an important aspect.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. August's Garlic Festival cancelled by organisers due to COVID-19. The Isle of Wight Garlic Festival has been cancelled for the second year running, organisers have announced last Thursday morning. The annual Isle of Wight Garlic Festival, which was due to be held on the 21st and 22nd of August, is said to be an enormous financial gamble, and with the ongoing coronavirus uncertainty, it remains unclear to organisers if a high-capacity food and music festival would be possible to stage safely in August in the way it is usually enjoyed. A spokesperson has said, "Other island events in their own way are just as unique as ours. Each operates slightly differently. These shows may still take place safely because higher ticket prices help them absorb the additional costs of staging their shows, and we plan to attend as many of them as we possibly can this summer." Some event organisations have benefited from substantial Arts Council funding grants, which will be an enormous help to them, but the £100,000 risk in staging the Garlic Festival is ours and ours alone. Without the usual crowds and with just a few months to go, we think the continued uncertainty creates too large a gamble. There is no guarantee that Boris's roadmap will happen, as he hopes, on the 21st of June, and even if it does, the timescale for us is just too short. We have been in regular contact with the Council's licensing and environmental health officers this year, as well as a representative from Public Health England and the NHS. All remain cautious about the influx of huge crowds at events this summer. Ultimately, the health and safety of the public, our volunteers, staff, helpers and neighbours remain everyone's primary concern. Attentions now turn to next year's Garlic Festival, which will be held on the 20th and 21st of August 2022. The spokesperson has added, "We very much thank those of you who continue to support and contact us through these challenging times. We appreciate it. We offer our sincere apologies for all those affected. We are disheartened and disappointed that for a second consecutive year we have been unable to put on the island's biggest summer show."
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from the Island Echo. Trading Standards warn of loft insulation scam. The Isle of Wight's Trading Standards team is issuing warnings to residents regarding a new loft insulation scam that is circulating across the island. The team has received many reports of the scam from islanders, which sees a call received by residents from a Bournemouth number, with the caller offering a free survey to find out if your loft insulation is causing damp issues. If you agree to the survey, they will book somebody in to come and have a look, and we can almost guarantee that they will find problems and then proceed to do work for you at an inflated price. The Footprint Trust has advised Trading Standards that in most cases, fiberglass loft insulation does not cause damp issues, and if it does, it can easily be remedied by pulling it back from where it touches the roof, which increases airflow. You can do this yourself, and if you are unable to, a handyman should be able to do this for a reasonable price. Do not engage with these callers and don't let them into your property. You can report scams online at www.actionfraud.police.uk or on the phone 0300 123 2040. Phishing emails can be forwarded to report@phishing, which is phishing.gov.uk. Scam texts can be forwarded to 7726.
Magnificent piece of island railway heritage returns to the Isle of Wight after 85 years. From Isle of Wight Radio, Chris. A special visitor is returning to the Isle of Wight after 85 years. Steam locomotive Noel, one of the A1X Terrier class, is visiting the island to be part of the railway's 50th anniversary gala on the 4th to 6th of June. The locomotive worked on the Isle of Wight between 1929 to 1936, where it was named Bembridge, following the tradition of naming engines after the island's towns and villages. The engine would have been used on the island's quieter branch lines. These engines gained their nickname of Terriers due to their diminutive size, rapid acceleration and the characteristic bark of their exhaust. The locomotive is now based at the Kent and East Sussex Railway and will be arriving on Thursday the 27th of May on board the Wight Link ferry at Fishbourne. Noel will travel onto Haven Street and will spend a month visiting the steam railway. This landmark event is being captured on Meridian TV's 6 o'clock news that evening. Steve Backhouse, General Manager at Isle of Wight Steam Railway, said, "It's great to welcome this magnificent piece of island railway heritage back for our 50th anniversary gala. The gala weekend is set to be an amazing event for families and enthusiasts alike. We'll be steaming 3 original Isle of Wight engines, with Noel joining our resident locomotives W24 Calbourne and W11 Newport."
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo. Future of M&S stores on the Isle of Wight unclear as closures announced. Marks & Spencer could shut or reconfigure their stores on the Isle of Wight as the company announces another 30 shops are to be completely closed across the country. The company has announced that it aims to reduce the number of full-line stores over the next 10 years, as well as transforming some into food-only outlets. Some stores will be relocated, with the total number of stores set to reduce from 254 to 180 by 2031. Pre-tax losses of £201 million in 2020-21 have led to today's announcement, which comes only a short while after 7,000 job losses from the previous round of closures. The lack of clothing and homeware sales, which fell by 31.5%, hit the firm hard. M&S operate 2 stores on the island, the main store at Church Lytton in Newport and a food store at Terminus Road, Cowes. Steve Rowe, Chief Executive at Marks & Spencer, has said, "In a year like no other, we have delivered a resilient trading performance, thanks in no small part to the extraordinary efforts of our colleagues. In addition, by going further and faster in our transformation through the Never the Same Again programme, we moved beyond fixing the basics to forge a reshaped M&S. With the right team in place to accelerate change in the trading businesses and build a trajectory for future growth, we now have a clear line of sight on the path to make M&S special again. The transformation has moved to the next phase."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. The Needles named as one of the 7 natural wonders of the UK. We already know the beauty of this iconic landmark, but the Needles here on the Isle of Wight have been named amongst the 7 natural wonders of the United Kingdom. The Royal Geographical Society with IBG, in partnership with outdoor brand Merrill, have revealed their top 7 locations across the country, including Pistil Rheada waterfall in Wales, Loch Coruisk and the Coolins on the Isle of Skye, Dovedale in the Peak District, Wastwater in the Lake District, the Jurassic Coast in Dorset, the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, and, of course, the Needles. Mary Ann Ochota, Fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, has said, "This list will have a couple of sites that might be familiar, but there's also likely to be some hidden gems that you might never have heard of. These 7 locations are really extraordinary. I think most of us would be amazed to learn that they're right here in our own country. From sculpted limestone valleys to steep mountains that overlook Ice Age landscapes, to sea stacks, foaming waterfalls, and cliffs that hold the bones of dinosaurs. If you thought geology was boring, get ready to think again." Results from a survey carried out by the Society suggests that the pandemic has made the public more open to UK travel, with 44% stating they were more open to exploring unfamiliar places in the UK more than they were before. The Isle of Wight is expected to be incredibly busy over the coming days and weeks, with sunny, warm weather set for the bank holiday weekend and half-term, as previously reported by Island Echo.
Check your medication now to avoid the risk of running out over the holiday weekend. From On the Wight, Elaine. Don't run out over the bank holiday weekend or become a burden on an already pushed 111 service. The island's NHS 111 service is asking islanders to think ahead and check they have everything they need ahead of the bank holiday weekend, as calls to NHS 111 are expected to reach peak levels. Time to shake is a helpful reminder for everyone who takes medication on a regular basis to check their supply now and make sure they have enough to last a 3-day weekend. On average, the NHS 111 service based at St Mary's Hospital takes over 2,000 calls a week, but on a bank holiday weekend, the service can receive 1,200 calls over the 3 days alone, and requests for repeat prescriptions is one of the top 4 reasons for calling NHS 111, along with bites and stings and hay fever symptoms. Most of these calls could be treated at home with over-the-counter remedies. Check your medication now to avoid the risk of running out over the holiday weekend is the message from NHS 111 team in a bid to reduce calls to the service which could be avoided. Lee Hayward, Isle of Wight Ambulance Service Delivery Manager for NHS 111 said, "Calls to 111 are incredibly high at the moment. We are non-stop, and as we approach the bank holiday weekend, we know they are only going to continue to climb. Anyone who takes regular medication, such as an inhaler, medicine or tablets, are asked to check their supplies now, give them a shake and order any medication they think they need rather than waiting until they run short and having to call NHS 111 at one of the busiest times of the year. Reducing the number of calls for things like repeat prescriptions and minor conditions will really help us in being able to focus on caring for those most in need. 111 website and pharmacies are a great first option. If you find yourself in need of minor medical treatment or advice, 111.nhs.uk and pharmacies are a great first option for a quick, helpful advice. Your pharmacist can recommend over-the-counter treatments or direct you to a more suitable clinical professional if necessary. Many pharmacies will be open on Bank Holiday Monday, but opening hours can change, so it's best to call the pharmacy ahead of making your journey. As well as visiting a pharmacy, you can visit 111.nhs.uk to get a referral to a local pharmacy and pick up an emergency supply of repeat prescription. Call 999 in a medical emergency. This is when someone is seriously ill or injured and their life is at risk.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from On the Wight. Takeover car show on the Isle of Wight. Organisers confident event can go ahead. This will be the 5th year for the event on the Isle of Wight. COVID-19 may have cancelled its 2020 event, but organisers of the renowned car show Takeover, which attracts hundreds of car enthusiasts to the Isle of Wight, are confident the event can go ahead next month. Submitting a licensing application to the Isle of Wight Council, Isle of Wight Takeover promotion events are hoping to stage the show at the County Showground Northwood on the 12th and 13th of June, with a capacity of 2,499 people applied for. Live music and late licence. They are asking for a licence to host live music, play recorded music and provide late-night refreshment and alcohol. Last year's unprecedented COVID-19 restrictions forced the event to be cancelled in March and then again in September. Going into the 5th year, event organisers said on their website that they were left with 2 options: to cancel the show again with the threat of not being able to trade going forward, or move the event to a date that was safe and one where everyone could attend. With the government's roadmap easing halfway through this month, people can now stay overnight. Have your say. The application will be considered by the council with public comments accepted on the proposals. 21/00325/LAPNEW until the 2nd of June. The event showcases modified and enhanced cars, attracting groups and car clubs from across the UK. There will be a show area, a trade village, and, as in the past, events a rev-off arena on Sunday. Ensuring it meets the government and industry standard for COVID-19 safety, it is taking part in the We're Good to Go scheme set up by the nation's tourism bodies and has outlined areas where face masks will have to be worn. Hoping to come back bigger and better in 2022, organisers say that this year they just need people's support.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Very hard 15 months cancels Bryston Christmas Tree Festival. A very hard last 15 months has cancelled Bryston's popular Christmas Tree Festival. Organisers say they are sad they are not able to run the annual Christmas event on the island this year. The committee says it knows islanders will be disappointed, but social distancing would not have been possible. In addition, the event's sponsors are not in a position to support the event after a very hard 15 months. Posting on Facebook, Chris Goodman said, "I am sad to say that the committee and I have decided that we cannot run the festival this year. I know many people will be so disappointed, as indeed I am, but there is no way we could have achieved social distancing with the thousands of people that come to the festival. Also, we do not have the time to make all the arrangements in the time available, and many of our generous sponsors are not in a position to support the event after a very hard 15 months or more. In the light of a possible upturn in the pandemic, it seemed the most responsible action to take. We hope you understand and look forward to hopefully seeing you in 2022.
This is Alison reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio. Exclusive interview: Isle of Wight to become centre of global development with tidal project. There are hopes that the Isle of Wight will be at the centre of an exciting global project involving tidal power that could fuel a quarter of the Isle of Wight's homes. Tidal is reliable, predictable and a secure form of energy, according to the chairman of Perpetuous Tidal Energy Centre, PTEC, who is running the project. Rob Stevens says for those who don't understand it, the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun on the waters create the tide, so you can then create electricity. Rob Stevens explained, "It will never run out and it will be there forever, almost in total harmony with the environment. It is a very exciting project coming forward, trying to get to net zero by 2050. And the other thing is it will bring long-term investment and job opportunities on the Isle of Wight. It could put the Isle of Wight right at the centre of global development for this area. In developing a commercial capability, it is actually going to drive down the price of tidal energy to make it competitive for all the other forms of renewable energy as well. Islanders should be excited about the project, and if they have any doubts, they should attend the seminars. If approved, work will start in 2023, with plans for it to be up and running by 2025. The project will involve placing around 6 or 7 tidal turbines around 2 miles offshore between St Catherine's Point and Ventnor. The structure will look similar to a boat. There is a southern water station already there, which is where it will be placed, so it blends in with the environment. There are similar projects in North Scotland, the Shetlands and Orkney. The project achieved full consent in 2016, but has been delayed by a change in government policy. Since then, the company was put into hibernation, but now, with values seen in tidal energy, is ready to bid to produce electricity in 2025. Now, backed by a partnership with the European Marine Energy Centre, EMEC, funding from TIGER, Tidal Stream Industry Energiser, and anticipated new government support, PTEC plans to be operational by 2025. The company is in the process of submitting a planning application for the onshore elements of the project to the Isle of Wight Council. If consent is granted, construction work is anticipated to commence in 2023, with plans for the project to be fully operational by 2025. Investment for the Isle of Wight chairman of PTEC, Rob Stevens, added, "This project will further strengthen the UK's global leadership in tidal power and strengthen the island of Wight's maritime economy with investment and jobs. Once established, it will put the island at the forefront of sustainable marine energy innovation to further enhance its reputation as a marine industry hub. The project is set to generate energy for at least 15 years, resulting in long-term investment and revenues which will boost the economy both nationally and locally." How can you find out more about the project? As PTEC prepares to finalise its plans, it is seeking the community's views on its proposals. 2 webinars are also being held for members of the public to hear direct from the project team and ask any questions. Pre-bookable telephone appointments are also available. The webinars are on Monday the 7th of June at 6 p.m. and Tuesday the 8th of June at 1:30 p.m. Telephone appointments are available on Friday the 4th of June.
This is the second part of the Talking News read by Francis and Kate. We begin with letters to the editor.
This letter is from C. Wilson of St. Helens. I read with interest recent letters in the county press, 30th of April and 14th of May, regarding the different experiences with island vets. 3 months ago, our elderly Labrador collapsed. Is this right? And was in great pain and distress. I phoned the vets she had been registered with for 10 years, but they refused to see her unless we took her to the surgery. I explained that she couldn't stand up and she was too big for us to handle into a car. The only help they offered was another vet's number, who said we were not their patient and our vet had a duty of care. Fortunately, we obtained the number of a dedicated French vet from another source, presumably the same one mentioned in the other letters. He came straight out, made her comfortable, cared for her over the next week, and when the time came, put her to sleep in her familiar surroundings. We will always be grateful for his compassion and his professionalism. COVID has caused problems in all spheres of life, but what a difference in response.
Wonderful waterside workers, so welcoming, from Mrs. Joan Livingston, Ryde. As a deaf, arthritic 94-year-old who very seldom writes to the papers, I feel I must pay a public tribute to the staff at Ryde Waterside Swimming Pool. In spite of the pandemic and all the extra work entailed, checking, cleaning, sanitising before and after every session, they still greet everyone with a welcoming smile. I can no longer exercise my legs by walking any distance, so the pool is a godsend to me. Thank you to all the wonderful waterside workers, from top management to the newest lifeguard, whose help and encouragement goes far beyond the call of duty. What a shame that disabled people who cannot drive are unable to reach Waterside, as there is no handy bus stop.
This letter is from Kevin Grist of Newport, saying some drastic measures are needed to stop this destruction. Regarding the letter in the County Press 14th of May on the destruction of mature trees at Silverglades Caravan Park at Cranmore, while I would agree with Leslie Hampshire's comment about making the person who sanctioned the work and the people who actually carried out the clearance, a few lines back in the article, the answer to that was already given. As she wrote of her experience of, so what? I'm going to make a lot more out of what I have done. Planning contraventions of all kinds are being blatantly carried out across the island with a total disregard to other residents and in the knowledge that very little will be done about it. With the advent of Google Earth, it is very easy to see what is being done to the island, and it would be easy for the Isle of Wight Council's Building Control Department to keep tabs on things that were carried out without planning permission or any legally required permission. Employing someone to do this would almost certainly pay for itself. If anyone undertakes work that should legally have required planning permission, the council should make them apply for retrospective permission and fine them, but also put a planning blight on the land for 25 years, during which time no further applications will be allowed. Ignorance is not an excuse. So if people choose not to proceed through the correct routes, they should not be allowed to carry out any further works requiring permission on the land or other areas benefiting from the illegal works.
Please make this temporary one-way system permanent. From Chris Porter, Ventnor. Am I the only person thinking that the temporary one-way diversions due to roadworks on St George's Way in Newport are a vast improvement on the previous arrangements? Driving into Newport from the Shide direction, the traffic moves smoothly into and around the roundabout leading to Medina Avenue because 2 sets of traffic control have been eliminated in Medina Avenue. Driving into Newport from the Cowes Ride direction, the Coppins Bridge South Street exit is now also diverted to the roundabout leading into Medina Avenue. All Church Lytton traffic destined for the town centre or through traffic heading down South Street to Coppins Bridge no longer faces long delays from the old 4-way lights at Morrison's. The through traffic can now easily exit from South Street onto Coppins Bridge, as it no longer faces traffic from St George's Way heading to Cowes and Ryde. Some ingenious person has created a magnificent one-way system, adding a few yards to the drive, but without light-controlled chaos in all directions. Newport is no longer jammed with traffic, which is now spaced out and running smoothly. Congratulations to whoever designed this layout. Do we really need anything else?
Whatever happened to personal customer contact, asks Sue Porteous of Wootton. I am very frustrated with trying to contact and speak to a member of staff at companies when trying to buy or book or ask a question regarding a purchase, a ferry booking, an appointment, etc. Nobody seems to be at the end of a phone anymore, or you spend an hour or so waiting to try to speak to someone while listening to music. Recently, a friend moved house and it took her days to contact companies to change her address, telephone number, etc. Nobody seems to want to answer the phone and help and advise people anymore. It's all done online. Where is the helpful member of staff that would go out of their way to advise and assist you? It's also very difficult to find anyone to contact directly over an issue that is important to you or your family. Everything is done online. Where is the personal contact and the kind, helpful member of staff gone? This is a disaster for us older generation who have in the past helped and assisted people ourselves in our career or job. Recently, my husband tried to book a block of tickets from Wight and they did not answer the phone, and he just had to use the computer to get in touch with them. There was one helpful gentleman, but he also only contacted us by email. No personal touch again. We have become too reliant on our devices. What would happen to this country or world if it all crashed? I hate to think. Come on, Wight and other well-known companies. Get your act together and put staff at the end of a phone. You never know, you might improve your sales by doing so.
Mountbatten new recruit puzzles me. From Richard Spencer Cowes, re Charity's newest recruit, County Press, 14th of May, 21. As a person who has previously given time and money to the Mountbatten, which is a deserving charity, I am somewhat amazed that they need to recruit a head of innovation and services development. I have no doubt that the role will be well rewarded, but fail to see just what the real opportunities there are to provide new and better support for those who are living with death, dying and bereavement. Do they raise too much money and don't know how to spend it all? To me, this is just another example of well-paid maid job in the charity sector.
Mrs. M. Farrow of Ryde says hospital heroes are caring and thoughtful. I've just had to go to St Mary's Hospital after a bad fall. The ambulance crew were caring and thorough. When I arrived at A&E, I was made to feel as if I was the only patient. They're all wonderful doctors and nurses. I was treated with the best care and compassion. How dare anyone complain?
Time to stop this roadworks chaos. From David Jones, Newport. While I may be one of tens of thousands who suffered amidst the chaos caused by island roads, it seems to have escaped them that our island has increased in population massively in the last decade, the infrastructure having been ignored. It beggars belief to encounter roadworks after roadworks, they even having dug up the detour roads. I was trying to get my granddaughter to her place of work. Hopeless. She made at least 3 phone calls to her boss, apologising for being late, eventually getting out of the car to walk the last 2 miles. Even 20 years ago, this many roadworks per square mile would have been pushing the envelope of tolerance. The way to deal with roadworks backlog is to engage a lot of manpower to far fewer work sites so that the work may be accomplished apace. The general consensus of opinion is that island roads stuck to their finger up at us, not giving a monkeys. The cost to the environment and the unnecessary burning of fuel must have run into millions, and it will doubtless continue. We will soon have to consider a high-speed ferry service for people serving the coastal towns. In 10 years' time, a 2 mile per hour average on the coast roads will be the norm. There are those within our councils who are aware that the building of tens of thousands of houses was a step too far. For goodness sake, listen to them. The above incident is a demonstration of just how fickle our infrastructure is. You must surely realise that it is teetering on the edge of collapse. The time to have accomplished a massive roadwork programme was when the vaccine first became available. Infrastructure is an essential upon which all else depends.
Now we have White Memories by John Hannam, who describes 2 stars who spent their final days on the Isle of Wight. Before the mid-1950s, when rock and roll first burst on the scene to change music forever, For several years, songs like The Gypsy, A Tree in a Meadow, I'm Walking Behind You, In a Persian Market, Bells Across the Meadow, and In a Monastery Garden had been favourites all around the world. The first three were written by Billy Reid, and the other three by Albert Catelby. Amazingly, both of these successful British songwriters spent their last years of their lives in Cowes. They had fascinating stories. Billy Reid was born in Southampton and really came to fame in the big band era of the 30s and 40s. In 1932, he became the leader of the London Piano Accordion Band, and then he fronted his own Billy Reid and his accordion band. They made records for Decca, and he became one of the most famous band leaders in Britain. Millions listened to his broadcasts, and sometimes they even fooled listeners by also performing as Primo Scala and his banjo and accordion band. His life suddenly changed in 1936 when he heard a young, unknown Welsh singer.
He found out her name was Dorothy Squires, and he offered her an audition with his band. She accepted the job, and he had a dream of making her a star. He did just that, but at a cost. He was completely infatuated with her and left his wife and family. They stayed together until she got fed up with him, and in 1953 she married an unknown young actor called Roger Moore. She was world famous by then, and her success in America helped her career. Billy and Dorothy had become one of the hottest acts in Britain. His brilliant songs were written with her in mind. He did write Out of the Blue, which became a boost for the war effort, became a flag waver hit. At the end of the war, he really became a songwriting legend. In 1946, one of the world's most famous singing groups, the Ink Spots, took his song The Gypsy to #1 in America. He was the first British songwriter to achieve this, long before Lennon and McCartney and co. In Britain, Dorothy Squires took it to the top of our music charts. The worldwide sales were 10 million. Amazingly, he had 2 more stateside #1 hits.
They were Margaret Whiting in 1948 with A Tree in a Meadow, and top crooner Eddie Fisher topped the charts in 1953 in Britain and America with I'm Walking Behind You. Many of his songs were British hits for Miss Squires. How good were Billy's songs? Among the stars who recorded them were Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Peggy Lee, Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong, Vera Lynn and Al Jolson. Several years after he and Dorothy Squires parted, she was appearing cabaret at a Hollywood nightclub, and every evening a young man in the audience requested a song of Billy's called Mother's Day. It was 1958, and that guy was Elvis Presley, who was devoted to his own mother. Other highlights for Billy included Al Martino recording I Still Believe, Joan Regan singing I'll Close My Eyes in the 6-5 special movie, and the Dinah Washington version was used in the 1995 movie The Bridges of Madison County. Billy, who died in the Isle of Wight County Hospital Ryde in 1974 from a chronic kidney disease, wrote 250 songs and made huge amounts of money during his career, but was also a big spender. When he moved to Gurnard and later Cowes Parade, he was virtually penniless. So much so that after his death, his second wife, a wonderful singer called Jane Gordon, had to work in a local chemist shop to keep herself and their young son.
Billy Reid Jr. was a great crooner. He died at the age of just 50 in 2007. He'd been popular singing in Cowes pubs and was always so proud of his famous father. Albert Kettlebay retired to Cowes and spent several years living on Egypt Hill until he died at the age of 84. His music, particularly inner Persian market lives on today. The American 70s disco group, the Ritchie Family, recorded this classic tune, as did the famous James Last Orchestra. Sammy Davis Jr. recorded a brilliant version in the 50s, and Billy May and Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pop Orchestra also had success with the song. It was also used in a TV commercial for TomTom sat-navs. Young Albert, who was born in Birmingham, was a child prodigy. At the age of 11, he wrote a piano sonata that won praise from Edward Elgar. He beat Gustav Holst in a competition for a musical scholarship at London's Trinity College of Music. His early life included being the musical director of the West End's Vaudeville Theatre, playing piano for the silent movies and at popular tea dances.
During this period, he was also composing his music. Some of his most celebrated are In a Monastery Garden, with which singer Ronnie Ronald sold 1 million copies, Sanctuary of the Heart, and Bells Across the Meadow. Many of these are still recorded today by top orchestras. While conducting a programme of his own music at a Royal Command performance, Albert gave a second rendering of the state procession movement from his Cockney suite during the interval at the request of King George V. He'd arrived late and missed it at the beginning of the programme. Albert was the musical director of Columbia Records for over 20 years and conducted their various orchestras on more than 600 records. Although never proven, he was frequently quoted as being Britain's first millionaire composer. He had a long and successful marriage to Charlotte Siegenberg. After she died in 1947, he married Mabel Pritchett. During the late 1940s, his home, Cowes home, was flooded and the bulk of his manuscripts were destroyed. In the last years of his life, he rarely left his home. He did have a passion for billiards and must have had his own table. It would be intriguing to know if these two famous British songwriters ever met up.
My view. A panel of columnists take it in turn to give their take on life as it is played out on the Isle of Wight. Jim Gibbons, wasps and banana strings are among life's irritations. Considering how successfully the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are currently doing their thing around the world, it seems perhaps petty to grumble at lesser evils, but there are more of them and they are more common. We need a collective name for them. Nothing so grand as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but perhaps they should be called the 10 cyclists of the trouser clips, or the 10 pedestrians of annoyance. I imagine my list and number will be different from yours, but then it's my column and possession is 9/10 of the law, so they say. Anyway, here are mine. Stringy bits on bananas. I do think God dropped a clanger here. It's not as if bananas are critters with their own agenda like wasps. See below. Bananas don't have to do anything except grow, so why have bits that nobody likes? Number 2. Fingernail offshoots at the edge of the nail, which have declared independence from the main body and whose highest ambition is to catch on clothing. Number 3. People who think refute is just a more emphatic word for deny. Ask them in what way they have refuted the allegation. Number 4. Soap scriptwriters who make their characters say, "But he will get better, won't he?" instead of, "Will he get better?" Real people know that saying it doesn't make it so. Number 5. Including many manufacturers who think that natural implies harmless. Arsenic, strychnine and deadly nightshade are all natural. Number 6. Wasps. Though in their favour, if bees die out, they will sigh deeply and take up the work of pollination. Number 7, sellotape ends which, despite all precautions, merge into the main body, or tear into strips as you pull. Number 8, white goods such as cookers and washing machines which colour their controls white on white, which eventually means you have to do minuscule sign writing with black paint. Number 9, that television advert for shampoo aimed at women in which the woman on the screen says, "It is very popular with women," and then whispers, "over 40. I think this must hold the worst record for missiles thrown at television screens. Number 10, appliances which come with a substantial manual, most of which, however, is in various foreign languages. The English section is written in American. It helpfully points out that it covers models 236D, 236F and 240. The appliance does not show what model it is. That would spoil the look of it. You can only find out by taking off the cover, which of course would invalidate the guarantee. This matters because on page 35 it states that models 236D and 236F require the Flangeldux filter to be changed every 6 months, but this should never be attempted with model 240, as the redesign has made this unnecessary and impossible. Last time I asked who wrote of the 5 giant evils, squalor, ignorance, want, idleness and disease, that was Lord Beveridge at the start of the NHS. Now, who said, "I don't have pet peeves, I have whole kennels of irritation"?
Public information. Hopes are high for more help for our island, says Bob Seeley, the island MP. This week has seen the appointment of a new leadership team at the Isle of Wight Council. I would like to thank the outgoing leader, Dave Stewart, for his service to the island, and I look forward to working with the new administration moving forward. Together, we have the important task of shaping the island's future post-pandemic, so it's important that we work cohesively to ensure we deliver the things that matter to islanders. I'm pleased to say that there are already good things happening on the island. Work is currently underway on a bid which is hoped will result in significant investment in East Cowes as part of the government's Levelling Up Fund. There are also multi-million-pound bids being put forward which, if successful, will boost further education on the island. The government has set out a clear agenda with its lifetime skills guarantee, and we need to make sure we capitalise on that here. We're currently seeing major improvements being made to our railway, thanks to significant government investment, and we are looking at the viability of extending the line further. Having already secured £48 million from the government to help us deliver even better patient care for islanders, the next big step will be the introduction of measures in the Health and Care Bill that will radically reduce bureaucratic processes and join up health and social care. The Council has received funding of £50,000 to look at the unique challenges the island faces as a result of being separated by sea from the mainland. This should lead us to a better deal moving forward so that we can do more for island residents. As the island's MP, my overarching priority is to deliver a better deal for the Isle of Wight, and I will be looking to work with the Council on a common agenda to make sure that we can keep delivering.
Entertainment. The Joy of Live Amdram Makes Welcome Return by Laurie Little. The show must go on, as the saying goes, and Bembridge Little Theatre Club plans to make sure of it. COVID restrictions mean they have not performed to the public for more than a year, having had to do all their rehearsing outdoors for their forthcoming production. Full Circle is getting the cast really excited to get back on stage. It will be among the first productions island audiences can attend this year. We are all rallying to bring some entertainment to the island, said Glenys Lloyd-Williams. She is in the show, alongside John Abraham, John Hammond, Jane Roberts, Marty Kane, Alice Burton-Jones and John Molyneux. Barry Aspinall directs. The show is a comedic drama set in the weeks before the wedding of Nicola. Linda has designed the wedding she never had for her only daughter, much to the horror of husband Brian. The ticket prices include a programme and a free soft drink or glass of wine. Audience numbers are currently limited to 30, but this may be relaxed nearer the date. However, tickets are selling fast. The show is being performed at Bembridge Village Hall on Friday, June the 25th and Saturday, June the 26th at 7:30 p.m. and on Sunday, June the 27th at 2:30 p.m. For the box office, call 07841 950 261.
There's to be a Coldplay tribute show at Shanklin Theatre. Shanklin Theatre will welcome live music back to its hallowed halls for the first time since 2020, when a popular tribute band hits the stage this summer. Formed by Coldplay fans, Coldplay have performed more than 800 gigs in the past 16 years, both in the UK and abroad. Shane Croft, lead singer of Coldplay, said, "Lockdown has brought challenges to many people over the last 18 months. Our reality now is we are allowed to perform to a live audience on a stage, and this is our focus at the moment. As musicians, this is what we've been longing for since we first went into lockdown last year. We had no idea it would last this long, and unlike other industries, we haven't had any relaxation of rules during this time." Coldplay will perform at Shanklin Theatre on Sunday, August the 22nd. In what promises to be an explosive gig, it will include confetti cannons, a laser light show and xylo bands, which are wristbands containing light-emitting diodes and radio frequency receivers for the audience to light up the auditorium. Tickets are priced at £23.50, available from the Shanklin Theatre website.
Historic steam train returns. Steam train Noel is back on the island for the Isle of Wight Steam Railway's 50th birthday celebrations. After an absence of 85 years, the A1X Terrier class is part of the railway's anniversary gala, which takes place from June the 4th to the 6th. This train actually ran on Isle of Wight tracks between 1929 and 1936. Called Bembridge, in the tradition of naming engines after towns and villages, it would have been used on the quieter branch lines.
Brading Villa is reopening. Brading Roman Villa has reopened after months of COVID-19 lockdown. If you plan to visit, you will need to book in advance, and face coverings will be required, unless you are exempt, for the site on Moulton Old Road. From June the 1st, it will be open Tuesdays to Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m, with the last entry at 3 p.m. Its coffee shop has also reopened. The historic site posted on Instagram last week to say how pleased it was to be able to welcome visitors again.
Parkrun restart delayed. Isle of Wight Parkrun will be back, but later than planned, say organisers. It had been hoped that the 5K weekly event, which is held across the country and on the island near Medina Leisure Centre in Seaclose Park, would start on June the 5th. However, a national decision to delay means a new, later June date is now being agreed. Isle of Wight co-organiser John Hepworth said, "Everyone is aware of the fantastic physical and mental health benefits of taking part in Parkrun. You can be a walker, runner or volunteer. Parkrun is a run, not a race. You can run, walk or volunteer, and it doesn't matter how long it takes." Some have been taking part in the Not a Run virtual event, clocking up the miles. Meanwhile, the 2K Junior Park for children aged up to 10 years old is now up and running at 9 a.m. on Sundays.
The Isle of Wight Garlic Festival has been cancelled. The Isle of Wight Garlic Festival, that was planned for the weekend of August the 21st and 22nd, will not take place, say organisers. They called the annual event an enormous financial gamble and said ongoing uncertainty over COVID-19 meant it was unclear if it would be possible to stage a high-capacity food and music festival safely.
Guildhall Museum reopens. The Museum of Island History reopened on Tuesday. From dinosaurs to the present day, the museum explores island history in its home in Newport's Guildhall. It is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Cruise companies are back on the water after COVID. Solent and White Line Cruises has returned to service following a difficult 14 months. Like many others in the tourism industry, the small family-run business had been unable to operate due to COVID-19, but the team were busy working in the background to prepare themselves for relaunch on May the 17th. One of its most popular Isle of Wight trips, the cheap day to Portsmouth, departing from Thetis Wharf in Cowes at 9:30 a.m, returned at the weekend. This island favourite will now run every weekend on both Saturday and Sunday. Its two ports cruise, running on Wednesday and Thursday mornings from Thetis Wharf Terminal, has also returned and departs at 10:30 a.m. This trip gives passengers several hours out on the water as they travel to Portsmouth for a harbour tour. Full commentary of the area gives an insight into the city and its naval heritage. If you are unable to access the online system, you can contact its office on 01983 564 602.
Pompey Clean Air Grants. Islanders who drive polluting vehicles can apply for grants to upgrade and get greener if they will be travelling regularly through Portsmouth's new Clean Air Zone, CAZ. A £3.2 million government clean air fund is being made available through Portsmouth City Council to the owners of vehicles that will need to pay. The aim is that they improve their emissions before it goes live later in the year. Among the areas covered by the CAZ is the route to the Wight Link terminal. Cameras are already being installed to monitor traffic. Private cars will not be charged under the scheme, which means most holidaymakers and islanders catching the Cross Solent ferry will be exempt. But some HGVs, buses and coaches will pay £50 per day, and some taxis and private hire vehicles £10 per day. The charges will be issued automatically and drivers will only be charged once per day. In March 2020, Portsmouth City Council was told to introduce the CAZ so it can comply with legal limits for air pollution in 2022. The grant is so drivers regularly travelling through the zone can upgrade or retrofit vehicles. It could cover buses, coaches, taxis and heavy goods vehicles that don't meet Euro 6 emissions standards if diesel, or Euro 4 emissions standards if petrol. To apply, visit travelportsmouth.gov.uk/schemes/charging clean air zone/ and supply evidence of how regularly you enter the CAS, how long you have been trading for, and details of your vehicles. For support, call 023 9283 4593 or email cashelpdesk@portsmouth.gov.uk to arrange a visit.
Who is your island squirrel hero? The Red Squirrel Survival Trust is calling on the island's red squirrel conservation groups to nominate their Volunteer of the Year. To mark Volunteers Week from June the 1st to the 7th, the Red Squirrel Survival Trust has launched a new accolade to reward those who endeavour to ensure the future of the UK's native red squirrel. The Red Squirrel Survival Trust Volunteer of the Year Award has been created specifically for volunteer groups across the United Kingdom to nominate an individual who demonstrates outstanding dedication in their work to protect the endangered native species. The key factors for volunteer groups to consider when making their nomination are length of service, personal qualities they bring to their volunteer role, and any achievements or involvement in noteworthy projects. Submissions can be made at email address, which is no, I'm sorry, I can't read that, with the closing date for nominations being September the 30th.
Turn up for sporty scientist Wynne, an island resident who worked on the scientific breakthrough, the Hadron Collider, has celebrated reaching 100 with a socially distanced gathering at Cowes Corinthian Yacht Club. Wynne Evans was born in Liverpool on May the 19th, 1921, an only child. He lived there until the age of 10, moving to Wokingham in Berkshire, where he first met Betty, who he married some 12 years later, and her sister Ollie. Wynne and Ollie went to the same primary school, Palmer Primary, and were in the same class. One day, Ollie wrote a handwritten note that was passed along to Wynne in a history lesson, saying, "Will you be my sweetheart?" Asked why she singled him out, Ollie said that he was the poshest and best-looking boy in the class. 10 years later, recovering from the shock of approaches from the fairer sex, Wynne asked Betty out when he was aged 22 and she was 18. She said yes, and they were married in the spring of 1950. Wynne followed in his father's footsteps by training as a pharmacist before going into the RAF during the Second World War. He served in Australia, Italy, France, and Greece. Post-war, he became chief technician in the nuclear physics department of Oxford University, gaining a lot of pleasure from helping students. He moved to the Isle of Wight, aged 64, and was involved in the development of the Hadron Collider in Switzerland. A sports fanatic, one of Wynne's passions in life is golf, and he spent decades helping junior players at Cowes Golf Club alongside Betty. He remains a passionate supporter of Everton Football Club and enjoys talking about all sports. Both he and Betty enjoyed a Friday evening at the golf club for meal, drinks and time with friends, and going to Portsmouth to watch the start of the Tour de France. In recent years, Wynne dedicated much of his time to looking after Betty, taking her out in the car every day to visit cafes and continue having adventures. Wynne enjoys a shopping trip, is never conversation, and will never say no to a slice of cake.
Island health bosses brace themselves for watchdog inspection. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust is bracing itself for an inspection from health watchdog the Care Quality Commission. Chief Executive Maggie Oldham said she could not imagine there are many other NHS chief executives who are as keen as she is to be inspected, as she seeks to move the trust from requires improvement status. The health watchdog found improvement in its last inspection in September 2019, pulling up the Trust's January 2018 ranking from inadequate, which saw the hospital fall into special measures. The Trust was rated as requires improvement in 4 categories: safe, effective, responsive and well led. It was rated good in its caring category. Mental health services were inadequate, but others, including the NHS 111 and out-of-hours services, had improved and were rated good. After the inspection, the Trust launched its Getting to Good campaign to see services upgraded and improved in time for the next Care Quality Commission inspection. Speaking at the Trust's board meeting last week, Ms Oldham said the Trust will be visited by the Care Quality Commission next month, when they will look at some of the core services before an inspection in July. She said, "We welcome the Care Quality Commission. We're really keen to demonstrate there are many improvements within our Trust since they were last able to visit us. I keep saying to staff, while the visit is really important, we want to demonstrate and be proud of the improvements we have made. That is all about doing the right thing for our community. And as we heard from our staff survey results, we know if we can get things right for our staff, we will start to see great outcomes for our patients."
Let's Put Medina Crossing Right by Lucy Morgan. Phil Jordan, an independent who represents Ryde North West, has been named the new lead for transport at the Isle of Wight Council. A cabinet member from 2013, Councillor Jordan lost his seat to Adrian Axford at the 2017 election. Since then he has been sitting on Ryde Town Council. On Wednesday night, fresh from his May the 6th victory, he accepted a cabinet role. Under new leader, Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox, he will take on a complex brief which covers the troubled Cowes to East Cowes floating bridge and the ongoing major roadworks through Newport Town Centre. Speaking to the county press on Wednesday, Councillor Jordan said, "I've spoken to the senior officer. I'm going to get a briefing next week." He promised action on the Chain Ferry. Floating Bridge 6, which has frequently broken down since it arrived on the Isle of Wight in 2017. The £3 million vessel was commissioned by a council leadership team headed up by former leader Councillor Jonathan Bacon and arrived when the Conservatives were in charge. Talk of legal proceedings has been ongoing since 2019, but dates for mediation have yet to be agreed. In a statement earlier this week, the Isle of Wight Council said, "The Council is engaged with ongoing legal mediation around the design, build and performance of the floating bridge. We are liaising with the parties concerned to agree mutually convenient dates for the mediation and hope to settle those dates shortly." On Wednesday, Councillor Jordan told the county press, "We're going to take stock of where we are. If there are legal proceedings, we're going to make some positive decisions about putting right the crossing over the Medina." He also addressed the major roadworks through Newport. The current phase has closed part of St George's Way following the completion of work to change St Mary's roundabout into a traffic light controlled junction. Councillor Jordan said, "I haven't seen details of the scheme, but I'll be guided by our community and the professionals. We have to find some solutions to our traffic problems." On the new Team Alliance, he said, "We've been working for the community as a coalition in Ryde for 4 years, and we'll do it here. We won't have 100% of the community agree on 100% of things, but we'll take majority views."
Giving the Isle of Wight a choice. Independent Councillor for Sandown North, Debbie Andre, will lead education. Councillor Andre said, "I'm absolutely delighted to get this cabinet portfolio for children's services, education and skills, something that's been very close to my heart. I've sat on the Children's Services Committee for most of my first term of 4 years. We have a high number of children in care, and because of the pandemic, I think that number is going to increase. I think it's important we focus on early intervention, and that's what I'm going to be looking at. Her first plan is to meet those working in the sector and visit all the schools on the island."
Right kind of housing. Cowes West and Gurnard member, Councillor Paul Fuller, is the new housing and planning lead. Councillor Fuller, who is an independent, said, "I'm overwhelmed. We didn't really expect that. Housing and planning, it's a matter of working together, being inclusive and making sure we do the right thing by the people we're elected to represent. Over the next few weeks, there will be lots of discussions with officers, other members and town and parish councils. It's about creating the right kind of housing and making sure that fits with the needs of the island." Councillor Fuller says he has a good relationship with Bob Seeley on housing issues.
Creativity is needed for social care. East Cowes Councillor Carl Love has taken on the role to lead adult social care and housing and says his approach will be collaborative. The independent, who is serving a second term, said he would listen to the team and acknowledged he would need to be creative. He told the county press money is going to be challenging. With a decreasing budget, we need to be as creative as we possibly can. The plan is to meet with Director of Adult Social Care and Housing Needs, Carol Tozer, and to listen to the team. It would be wrong to come in like a whirlwind and throw out the baby with the bathwater. We need to look at what we can do together to make things better within the current financial constraints imposed on us by government. Councillor Love said, "I am absolutely delighted to take on the role and also a bit scared."
High praise for Isle of Wight commitment. The Archbishop of Canterbury has praised the commitment of the now retired Bishop of Portsmouth, Christopher Foster. The tribute came ahead of a farewell service at Portsmouth Cathedral recently. It marked the end of Bishop Christopher's time leading the Church of England in southeast Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. At the Church's General Synod, the Most Reverend Welby said, "As well as being very diligent, Bishop Christopher is well known for his pastoral care. One example is the way he has been deeply committed to visiting the Isle of Wight, which has involved spending a phenomenal amount of time on the Fast Cat, hovercraft and ferries, and a lot of time waiting for them. He was the complete expert at working every occasion, whether with 1,000 pupils at the island's church secondary school or at any number of small village schools or parish celebrations. Chris and his wife Sally are also famous and much loved for their hospitality. Bishop Christopher's farewell service ended with him handing over his crozier and proceeding to the west door of Portsmouth Cathedral with his family, marking the end of his time as bishop. The congregation rose to applaud thanking him for a decade of service. It also included the world premiere of a piece by contemporary US composer Nico Muhly, which was specially commissioned and written for the moment. Also paying tribute was the Ven Peter Leonard, Archdeacon of the Isle of Wight. He said, "It is abundantly clear that Bishop Christopher loves and prays for his flock. We have heard much about his pastoral gifts and his care for the people of this diocese. I cannot recall ever having a bishop or a priest who I have known or who knew me as well as Bishop Christopher."
An isolation grant. Islanders may be eligible for a £500 grant if they need to self-isolate due to coronavirus. Residents on lower incomes can apply for the National Test and Trace Support Payment if they're unable to work from home while self-isolating and will lose income as a result. The one-off payments, which do not need to be repaid, are designed to help everyone comply with important self-isolation rules and stop the spread of COVID-19 while easing lockdown restrictions. The scheme has recently been expanded to parents and guardians who are not legally required to self-isolate but need to take time off work to look after a child or young person who is self-isolating. To check to see if you qualify for financial help, visit www.iow.gov.uk/IW Test and Trace Support. The website also includes details of a separate discretionary payment scheme run by the Isle of Wight Council. People can call the Isle of Wight Coronavirus Helpline on 01983 823 600 for support.
Fishing event to be green by John Moreno. The importance of the conservation of the marine environment around the island will be a major focus at the launch of a unique international fishing competition, the Sea Angling Classic, to be launched in July. Environmental cleanup, scientific research, education and conservation will be an important aspect to the angling event, which gets underway next year, expecting to attract around 1,500 fishermen. At the launch reception in Chichester Harbour on July the 23rd, there will be representatives of initiatives covering conservation and the environment in the region, including the island. Throughout the 3 days of the launch, there will be an emphasis on daily beach cleanups and a focus on the importance of the Solent's flora and fauna, including its native seagrass and nursery for juvenile fish and crustaceans around the island. The conservation of seagrass off the island is something event partner, the Isle of Wight Distillery, which produces mermaid gin in partnership with the Wildlife Trust, is passionate about. Angling Spirit and Sea Angling Classic founder Ross Honey said, "This will be an event like no other, encompassing a vast spectrum of events and initiatives, covering conservation and the environment, including vital marine research, education and the welfare of fish species in the Solent. It is so important, as part of this, to get the school children engaged in shoreline cleanups. In 2012, I ran an event at the Ebro River in Spain, a stunning location, but absolutely covered in rubbish. It was horrible. Some guys literally fished between bags of rubbish. It was that bad. So I organised a clean-up programme from which 52 tonnes of rubbish was gathered. From that, we created the Friends of Ebro, Elsewhere we go, we have a clean-up. So it would easily become Friends of the Isle of Wight, for example. Ross also aims to run a poster design competition by age group for school children with an environmental or conservation theme.
More kids than ever get to test the water. UXA, the leading maritime education and training charity, is set to welcome a record number of primary school children from the island for a half-day free water sports session. The aim of the Test the Water programme is to support young people to gain water confidence, alongside introducing them to sailing. Unlike previous years, UXA is opening this session up to both Year 6 and Year 7 students, as young people missed out last year due to the pandemic. The programme was designed to provide all Year 6 pupils on the island the opportunity to get on the water without the barrier of cost. As well as covering aspects of water safety, these sessions are designed to develop confidence and key skills. Since 2014, more than 6,000 Year 6 students have taken part, and this academic year, 2,661 children, that's 1,394 Year 6 and 1,267 Year 7, will have the opportunity to take part in a half-day session from 41 primary and 8 secondary schools. That is the end of the talking news for this week. So it's
Goodbye from Francis.
and goodbye from Kate. This week's BBC Radio In Touch programme follows.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Tonight we hear from blind and partially sighted football fans on what it was like finally to return to stadia as restrictions were eased.
Unfortunately, my dog is a bit mouthy. She likes a good bark up, no worries whatsoever. So, yeah, get yourself out there and get yourself to a football match and enjoy the atmosphere.
We'll ask fans from Brighton and West Ham United how their clubs are doing when it comes to accessibility under the new rules. But first, electric scooters. They're back in the news again. There's been a big reaction to new research showing there have been more than 200 injuries and over 1,000 complaints since trials of e-scooters began in 50 towns and cities across the UK almost a year ago. The figures were revealed in ITV's Tonight programme last Thursday. Visually impaired organisations and charities have renewed their calls for better regulation and policing of e-scooters, and you've already been emailing our inbox. Christine got in touch. She said, "Can I suggest that we all come together to stop these potentially dangerous vehicles? Yet another potential obstacle hindering me from leading a safe, independent life." Well, we thought high time we talked about this on In Touch again. I'm joined by Rhiannon Valadini, who's registered blind and has had a number of experiences of e-scooters in Cambridge. Rhiannon, what's been happening to you?
I've had a number of quite negative experiences myself with e-scooters and e-scooter users, unfortunately, including them being abandoned in the middle of pavements, particularly in the dark. At night seems to be when it happens most. I think people think that no one will notice. I had one particular incident where I was walking with a friend who had to bodily move me out of the way because I was going to fall over it, as I couldn't identify where it had been left, and it was just laying across the pavement in the dark. I've also walked into their handlebars when they've just been propped up against cafe seating areas in the middle of pavements, and a lot of the walkways in Cambridge are very narrow already, without further obstacles sort of being leant against chairs or just leant up against windows where the footbars are just left in the path.
And I gather you've got a little bit of sight. You also had a problem with their lights, haven't you?
Yes, so in the incident where my friend had to move me out of the way, there's a green light somewhere near the handlebar. I think maybe that's how you use it with the app. I'm not entirely sure, but it flashes intermittently. So I could see this light, which was very disorientating, but I couldn't figure out where the rest of the scooter was. Turns out it was on the pavement.
So is that the main problem, the fact that they are on pavements?
I think the main problem is that there's no specific place that people have to put them back. You know, once they've got them and they've used them for their purpose, there's nowhere that they actually have to put it back. So people don't feel obligated to put them in a safe place. They just leave them wherever's convenient.
And what about the sound they make? I mean, how much warning do you get?
Well, absolutely none. They're very, very quiet because I think they're the motorised ones, the electric scooters, and there's no sound whatsoever. So I was doing my daily commute to work just the other day, and one shot past me so close that, you know, it knocked the bag that I was holding, and I had no warning until it was right behind me because it's so soundless.
What effect is this having on your confidence?
Well, it makes me very anxious. You know, I like to think of myself generally as quite a confident person. I've been commuting to work now for 2 years, and it has made me very nervous. You know, I don't have my usual cues to pick up if something's coming behind me, and it's just very unpredictable, and it makes me feel very anxious. I think, you know, as the lady who wrote in said, you know, commuting by myself, I like to now ask if a colleague can meet me, or if I can meet a friend before work that wouldn't mind walking with me, because I do fear, you know, being hit or getting into an accident.
Rhiannon, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Also with us and listening to that is Mike Bell, who's from Sight Loss Councils, which are funded by the Thomas Pocklington Trust. Mike, first of all, I mean, what's your reaction to these figures? Over 1,000 complaints, more than 200 injuries, and indeed what you've just heard from Rhiannon.
Rhiannon absolutely spoke really powerfully to what we hear every day about people's experiences with e-scooters, and the figures from ITV tonight were really shocking and absolutely underlined the very real problems that e-scooters present. I mean, fundamentally, it's the perfect storm, isn't it? You've got a vehicle that is silent. It can operate at a speed considerably in excess of the average walking speed. You've got a vehicle that's very difficult for blind and partially sighted people to see. Obviously, visual impairments are not always obvious to the person using the e-scooter either. So you've then got real challenges for those two groups of people, users and those with visual impairments, seeing each other, and that inherently makes interactions between the two really dangerous.
Rhiannon mentions the pavement, the fact that they're on pavements, but they're not supposed to be on pavements. I mean, what's going wrong there? That is specifically forbidden.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. So they should not be used on pavements. The trial schemes are only for use on the highway, the road, and a few other designated areas. And there are two problems, really. So there are far too many schemes at the moment that allow dockless parking. So literally, as Rhiannon described, e-scooters can be left anywhere in the middle of the pavement, parked up for the next user to use. That's really poor, and we want all e-scooter operators to be using docking bays which are clearly marked and separated from the pedestrian areas. But the other is that so many of the schemes rely on the user not to drive on the pavement, and unfortunately human nature is such that people ignore that rule and take the shortest cut they can.
Now, the organisation Guide Dogs asked police forces how many of them were taking action against unsafe driving of e-scooters and parking on the pavements. Very few said they were. You can't blame the police though, really, can you? Have they really got the resources to police this?
Well, and that's a really good point, because we know that a lot of the rules are not being enforced either by operators or local authorities or the police. And what that points to is the real danger of more widespread legal ownership for private use as well. At least with the higher schemes, everyone's got some controls and influence over the regulations. But if we then end up with more widespread legal use of private e-scooters too, we can see that it could be a recipe for chaos. So we do need all of the operators to raise their game, really. And I think this ITV Tonight report is a real wake-up call to them, but also to the government, that they've got to put the right tough legislation in place to regulate this. And only when we've done that can we then properly evaluate the effectiveness of these schemes and see whether wider private ownership is appropriate.
Mike Bell and David Davis, thank you very much indeed. And before that, we heard Rhiannon Valladini. If you'd like to comment on that, tell us your experiences of e-scooters, do get in touch. Has anyone got anything good to say about e-scooters? Now, although the fact that football continued behind closed doors was a welcome distraction from coronavirus, well, it was if you were a football fan anyway, it just hasn't been the same without fans. Well, last week things began to return to some semblance of normality. Up to 10,000 fans were allowed back into stadia, including some of the many people who are visually impaired who enjoy their football. Our reporter Fern Lunham went to Brighton and Hove Albion last Tuesday ahead of their home match against already champions Manchester City.
So it's very exciting here outside a rather windy Amex Stadium as the fans start to arrive for the match tonight. The tickets for the game were allocated on a lottery basis, and among the winners was visually impaired Brighton fan Mick Etheridge.
Well, thrilled. It's exciting. I love it. We get the email through and they tell you there's a form about social distancing and making sure we wear masks and all that stuff. So they've been thorough.
What are the most important things for you in any stadium to make it accessible to you as a visually impaired person?
Most of the grounds that we've been to, Stoke, Fulham, we've been to Derby, Northampton, and they've been absolutely brilliant. The people who are actually doing the commentary, it's never us and them, it's always, the name of the club that's being ball to ball. It's been really good, very neutral on their side.
And just finally, Mick, what would you say to a visually impaired person that is thinking of coming to an actual match at a stadium but is a bit nervous about it?
First of all, come with someone on a full match day when there's 32,000 people. It's completely safe. I'd have no problems at all. If there's anyone with a guide dog, they have an area at the front where, they're allowing guide dogs in. Unfortunately, my dog is a bit mouthy. She likes a good bark up, no worries whatsoever. So, get yourself out there and get yourself to a football match and enjoy the atmosphere.
Hope you enjoy the game tonight.
I'm sure we will, and see whether we can beat them today.
Yeah,
Seagulls!
Brighton and Hove Albion pride themselves on being a club that's accessible to all, and like most Premiership clubs, Brighton employ a disability liaison officer to manage all the practical stuff, Millie Crowhurst.
We offer carer tickets, so a free carer season ticket to disabled supporters that may require one. We offer in-house audio descriptive commentary, and obviously this year's been a bit different, hasn't it? So with games that have been behind closed doors, we've actually set up audio descriptive commentary, but via Zoom. We've also got a here to help team as well on a match day who would be happy to assist you even into the stadium.
Do your rules allow visually impaired people to take the arm of a sighted guide, so including members of your own staff if necessary, so that they can comply with, for example, social distancing when it comes to queuing up and finding their way around?
If a supporter's coming and they haven't got a companion with them, we're there on a match day, we're masked up, we've got gloves on, hand sanitizer at the ready, and if someone needs the help, if it was me, I'd be more than happy to guide someone to where they needed to be.
Do you liaise with other clubs so you can sort of work together to help?
Pre-COVID, I'd always email my counterpart at the club that's hosting us. I might inform them that one of our supporters is bringing their assistance dog, or ex-supporter is sitting in this seat and they would like audio descriptive commentary to be brought to them. It's massively about communication, not just from club to club, but supporter to club as well. Because if we're getting as much information as we can from the supporter, we will do everything we possibly can to ensure that their visit home and away is mirrored in a sense.
Another lucky winner was Gordon Duval, who comes along to matches with his guide dog, Henry. Gordon was lucky enough to have gone to a socially distanced friendly match against Chelsea in August.
They had fences around and everything else, and you have to stay 2 metres apart, and then you sanitise as you go through, then you sanitise again as you go up in the lift.
Was all of that okay? It wasn't a problem for you?
It was a bit of a struggle doing Henry's paws.
So he's a football fan too?
Yeah, he loves the Brighton. Been at all away matches. Man City gave him a shirt. He's got loads of memorabilia from all the games.
Although stadiums are opening back up again now, Gordon, they are subject to social distancing rules. Are you happy with the way that the rules have been communicated to you by the club?
Yes. very happy. They sent me emails, they've even phoned me, and there's always someone there to help. I can't fault them, they're 100% and more.
And do the social distancing rules cause you any concern, for example, like queuing up or moving around the stadium in general?
They got lines. Henry stops at a line because he's used to the lines at the railway crossings. The stewards, they're so helpful anyway, and they even give me VIP parking. So I see all the players come over to us.
How do you find accessibility at away matches in general? Is it pretty good, or are there any problems?
Liverpool, they're great. They take you to your seat, take your order for drinks so you don't have to go in queue. The other one that was great was Leeds. At the end of the match, they took us all the way through the crowd, straight to our car. Brighton, no need to do that because everyone moves out of the way because they know what I'm like anyway.
Fern Lulham reporting there. I don't want to take too much away from Brighton, but it did rather look as if Man City already had their flip-flops on in the second half of that game. I'm going to continue in that vein now because we've got a West Ham fan on the line. Now, they played my beloved Southampton for the last game of the season on Sunday, and I have to report that we had a very successful first 5 minutes and then managed to lose 3-0. So I'm joining Paul Goodwin, who is a Hammer, and he was there. Paul, a good day for you, not such a good day for me.
Oh, absolutely awesome. Fantastic day all round, great result. And we finished above Spurs, so it can't get much better than that, can it? How much have you missed it all during the pandemic? Oh, massively. I mean, it's been, 16 months since I last went to a game. And, it's just been, I've missed it massively. Literally, the day I got confirmed in the ballot that I'd been successful with a ticket, I was also discussing on the phone with guide dogs, my guide dog Molly's retirement. So, it's quite an emotional sort of thing there. You know, it happened all at once. So, really happy. So Sunday was her last game as well, was it? It was her final game, and obviously the last year or so she's sort of gone into semi-retired mode because obviously we've been at home most of the time or social distancing a lot. So this last game, she suddenly had all the zip and energy. It was just like the old days. It was normality for the day. It was fantastic, or near normality at least. So what are facilities like at West Ham for you? They're really accessible. They really are since they've moved to the new stadium. I know a lot of people moan about it. It's never going to be Upton Park, etc., etc. But they really are very accommodating from the moment you arrive there. I am severe sight impaired, registered blind as such, but I can see a little bit. So I can still see them in their high-vis jackets. They do tend to be in a different colour, so you can see them. They're always very helpful. And, if I haven't got a companion or a free carer with me, then they'll guide me to my seat and, very much share the football banter with you and make it a nice day. And, they're nice to Molly as well. Keep her at arm's length, but, still respect the fact she's a guide dog. And they're really good. And is there a commentary, a sort of tailor-made commentary for visually impaired fans? There is, and I must admit I'm still stubborn. Some people might say I'm in denial, but because I can still see a bit, I'm determined to still follow that ball. And there will be times I'm saying to my daughter or my friends, "Oh, what's he doing? Where's that gone?" Because I've lost the ball, and they're saying, "Where are you looking?" etc. But I still try and make do without that. But they have got that facility, and it's a headset you can keep all season and then return at the end of the season as well, being a season ticket holder. So again, very accessible and very well organised. And how different were things on Sunday to, the matches you would normally have gone to and will be hoping to go to next season? I don't know. For me, it felt surreal. It felt quite overwhelming, the actual getting there, because I actually travel up from Oxford. I'm an ex-old Hammer from Essex, but I live in Oxford. So it's a bit of a journey up there. And it was quite overwhelming, the actual journey getting there. And then getting to the stadium, sort of outside the stadium, because obviously there wasn't the volume of fans. So it kind of felt different, with my limited vision. It just felt, everything didn't feel the same. It was really strange. But then chatting to friends in the pub before the game, even the ones that could, that are fully sighted, they couldn't engage with the fact that which train station, which tube did we change at? It had been so long, it had almost been like our brains had been frozen back in time. So it wasn't just me, or perhaps I am going mad, I don't know. I doubt it. Any problems with social distancing? No, not in the stadium. Again, I would say, as I said earlier, it was a bit overwhelming getting there, and definitely sort of on the tubes, underground, that sort of stuff. That wasn't the best experience, if I'm brutally honest. But as for the football stadium itself, they absolutely nailed it. You know, we were all socially distanced and just taken good care of, like I say, by the stewards in the ground. And even prior to walking there, everyone was just walking, and it was just common sense. You know, fans were just using common sense approach and felt really safe. And as I say, Molly had a spring in her step, and she got me to the turnstile, so it was all good.
Well, Paul Goodwin, in spite of you lot putting one over on us, I wish you the best of luck for next season.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you. Come on, you Irons. Thank you.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. And that's it for this week. Your comments and experiences welcome as always at football or anywhere else. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, and there's more information on our website bbc.co.uk/in touch, from where you can also download tonight's and previous programmes. That's it from me, Peter Wight, producer Simon Hoven, and studio managers Tom Parnell and Mike Smith. Goodbye.